Hello and welcome to another episode here on my channel. My name is ChaosMole and welcome to my review slash thoughts video on Warhammer 40k Darktide, because I'm not really doing normal reviews, like I'm not giving you any point system. I always find this weird 7 out of 10 points so weird because it's so arbitrary. It doesn't really tell you anything. That I'm not really doing that, but I will tell you in detail about how the game works, what I liked and what I didn't like about the game, and then you can make your own impression if you enjoy this game and if it is for your liking and you want to buy it or not, or you want to wait for a sale, or you will never touch it, right? A quick note before we are starting, and this is actually very important for everyone who is planning on playing this game. This game will also be available day one on Xbox Game Pass. There is unfortunately a pretty big caveat to it. Right now, cross-platform play is not available. That means that everyone who is playing with Xbox Game Pass cannot play together with people on Steam. So if your friends have the game already bought and you want to play with them together a little bit later by not buying it, but by playing on Xbox Game Pass, then right now, you're sheer out of luck. I know that sucks, especially in 2022. And that shouldn't be the case anymore, but that's where we are at right now. Fetchark has already announced that it has a very high priority to fix that, and that there will be crossplay as quickly as possible. They also said that unfortunately cross-save is a little bit of a different topic, and it might come a little bit later, but crossplay is pretty high up on their priority list. So let's talk about Warhammer 40k Darktide. If you didn't know, Darktide is, of course, the successor, not just spiritual successor, but actually successor to Warhammer Vermintide 1 and 2, and it will bring a lot of the gameplay elements from Vermintide 1 and 2 into the Warhammer 40k universe. So, to answer the question, should I buy the game when I didn't like Vermintide 1 or 2? Then the answer might probably be no, because gameplay-wise, not much has changed. But, and this is something I have to admit, I enjoyed Vermintide, but I was never the big Vermintide fan. I love Darktide to death because it is the Warhammer 40k universe, and I enjoy 40k so much more than I ever enjoyed Warhammer. So for me, this is a pretty simple deal. But you have to decide that for yourself. Also, there is definitely a bigger focus on range fights. To make something very clear, no, that doesn't mean that you can only use your range weapon. You can see it here in my video. I'm using my melee weapon quite often. And depending on the weapon or on the class, you will use your range or melee weapon more often, depending on the situation, depending on your class, depending on your weapon. It's all like dependencies, but you can definitely dial your play style more in one direction or the other, that you say, I want to play more melee fights, or I want to be just mostly a range fighter. You can make that happen, but you cannot just be a range fighter or just a melee fighter. There are just some enemies where you really don't want to go into a melee fight, or some situations where you don't want to go into a melee fight, and then you need a range weapon to a certain degree, and of course vice versa. But before we go into the nitty-gritty of the gameplay details, let's talk a little bit about technology and all that good stuff. So, good news, I had 0 issues with the beta. The moment I deactivated ray tracing, the game was buttery smooth. I didn't had any bugs, glitches. I didn't have any blue screens, or my game crashed. Well, I had one game crash in after playing the game for hundreds of hours, so it doesn't really count. But here's the thing, even though I had 0 issues, and I would say it was a super smooth experience, I know enough people who didn't have that luck, who had performance issues, and most importantly, who had crash issues. Now, it doesn't seem to be hardware related. I have some friends who have basically the same hardware like I have, especially the same GPU. It's just a different manufacturer. Instead of Gigabyte, it's MSI, and so on and so forth. And they had actually some serious issues with the game. So Fetchark is aware of that. They also already announced that they will bring some fixes to the release, and they have massively reduced the amount of people who are suffering from those issues. But the game, on my end at least, runs pretty well. I'm running Ryzen 7 2700, which is a little bit older at this point, but I didn't have any issues with that. I run 32 gigabyte of DDR4 RAM, a GeForce 3080 with 12 gigabyte of VRAM, and the game is running on my NVMe 2. And as I said, I've cranked up everything to ultra. The only thing I've deactivated is ray tracing, and why I did that is pretty simple. I'm also streaming the game, and streaming and having ray tracing on, and I'm doing everything over my GPU. Not necessarily the best idea when it comes to performance. If I wouldn't stream the game, I could have also just cranked up the ray tracing. I tested it out sometimes off stream, and it worked just marvelous with no particular issues. There are some FPS drops in the hub system because there's so many players and so many details that there have been some smaller FPS drops. But in the missions themselves, like you see here in the background, smooth 60 FPS experience at 4040p and cranked up everything to maximum, and I have been pretty happy with it. The only thing I noticed, which is a bit weird, they are of course offering DLSS and the AMD upscaling FSR, and for whatever reason, for AMD users, well, you can also use it of course on an NVIDIA card if you so desire, because it's a software solution, not a hardware solution like NVIDIA does. They're offering 1.0 and 2.0, and I don't know why. And a buddy of mine who has an AMD card automatically had FSR 1.0 activated, which makes no sense. Like, why would you use 1.0 instead of 2.0? There is no reason why 1.0 is in the game when you were offering 2.0, right? Like, I don't have any explanation for that. It's a bit weird. If you're an AMD user and you're wondering that everything looks a little bit weird and not as sharp as it could be, check if the upscaling is FSR 1.0 and not 2.0. Well, the other way around. You want to have it 2.0, right? But again, technically wise, it runs pretty well. I didn't have any connection issues. The servers were stable, and I can't really complain on my end. As I said, I know that some people had some issues though. So if you are somebody who normally gets plagued by those kind of issues, you might want to wait a little bit more. As I said, I didn't have any, but I know some people who had, so I wanted to mention that. Now, before we talk about more of the gameplay, I also want to talk about the world design a bit here, because man, this game just looks gorgeous. Like the details in the world, like this is one of the best looking games I have seen in quite a while. There are so many details here. It's truly a next gen game. I can say that. It just looks amazing, especially up close. And when it comes to the lighting effects, whenever you're shooting a las gun, you see like this laser just lighting up the whole room and particular items, and you see like the details at the walls and shadows, especially with ray tracing. It's just breathtaking. And they have done such an amazing world with the world design. I really feel like I'm in the Warhammer 40k world, and they have just been doing a fantastic job. And no, this is not the Unreal Engine, as some people have said it is. Fatshark is using their own proprietary engine, and again, it looks fantastic. It just runs good, at least on my PC, and it looks fantastic. So they did a fantastic job with the world design. The sound effects are just so good, like the enemy sound effects, the weapon sound effects. Like I'm really feeling like I'm fighting a Warhammer 40k fight, right? When you are firing the bolter, it is so satisfying when the weapon hits, when you shoot the weapon. It's just like, as a true Warhammer 40k nerd, it's just amazing. It's just fantastic, right? Speaking of enemy sounds, they did something really cool with the specials. So every special enemy has their unique sound the moment they're entering the map. Like, let me give you an example. The Tox Flamer, the dude with the flamethrower, when he's coming in, you hear a gas stove being turned on, right? You hear this click, 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 like click, 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 as if somebody is trying to turn on a gas stove, and you know, oh shit, Tox Flamer. Or you hear the howling of a hound before, well, the hound is on the map. Again, they have so many great sound keys where you're just like, oh, that enemy is around now. Interesting. Like, again, they did a fantastic job with that. Also, fantastic job, the music. Jesper Kate, I never know how to pronounce his last name correctly, has created the soundtrack, and every song is a banger. Every song is just an absolute banger, and I started to listen to the soundtrack off stream and when I'm not playing the game, which I normally don't do. And yeah, you just nailed it with this soundtrack. And every single song is just freaking fantastic. And don't turn down the music is what I want to say. Don't turn down the music. It is worth it. So, enough of world building and all that. Let's talk about gameplay. How does it feel? How does it play? Well, it plays like Warhammer 40k Vermintide. And yes, I said Warhammer 40k Vermintide because it feels like Vermintide, but in the Warhammer 40k universe. It feels tighter. Like, when you always thought that the melee fighting in the Vermintide games is pretty good, they have actually like managed to get better at that in Darktide. Like, it feels even tighter. Like, every hit just feels heavy and connects with the enemy. Like, there is not a moment where I think, how did I not hit this enemy? Or what happened here? It doesn't feel floaty. It just feels on point. And the same goes now with the range weapons, right? That was always like one of the big issues with Vermintide 2, that the melee felt all right, but when it came to range, it was like, could have been better. And I think they just nailed it now. Like, the range attack feels so satisfying if you were nailing your shots, no matter which weapon you were using. And they feel very satisfying. I actually talked to somebody who was a big Escape from Tarkov fan who has like over 1,000 hours in that game. And he was like, dude, like, some of those weapons, the kickback and all that, man, I felt like I'm playing Tarkov. Like, this game has no right to be that tight when it comes to the range weapons. And I think that was a pretty big compliment coming from him. So yeah, this time they nailed that as well, right? There is a lot of map variety. Like, this is, I think, the only map where you were outside, you were seeing, where you have been outside. You were seeing here in the background. They have a lot of like inside maps because you were in Hive City, but it never feels dull. It never feels like, oh, I've seen this before, or they're just reusing the assets of a Grey City over and over and over again. Again, there's so much detail and love in the map, but it's also they're reusing some of the maps, but then they are changing things. And you feel like, wait a second, I think I've been here, but I'm also not have been here, right? Because they're changing the pathways. Speaking of pathways, there are now tons of ways to get to point A. Like, where Vermintide was always pretty linear with some smaller paths you could choose, Darktide is now offering you multiple ways of approaching a target, which also invites you to, get away from your group and then getting horrifically murdered alone in the dark. So don't do that. Stick together. Speaking of sticking together, this game is now a true team game where even more than Vermintide, you want to stick together because every character is again bringing in an aura, like more attack speed, or the sharpshooter veteran has like a special when players are close to him and they are killing a special, there is a chance that you are getting some ammunition back, right? They have brought that back, but they also now introduced something called toughness, which is the blue bar on top of your health bar, aka your energy shields. You you cannot really do energy shields because lore reasons, right? I'm not saying that they are not energy shields in Warhammer 40k before somebody is correcting me. I'm just saying a lowly reject doesn't have an energy shield. So they are introducing toughness, which is basically your energy shield, right? And depending on how close you are to your other teammates, the quicker you get toughness back. And you will feel the difference. Like even one player not being here, so 3 out of 4, you will really feel the difference of how quickly your toughness is regenerating. So you always want to stick together. You want to work together. Even if you don't like each other, you just have to do it gameplay-wise, or you are getting screwed over by the game pretty quickly. Also, I feel like they did a much better job with the difficulty. Like the first difficulty is pretty simple, but not super easy. The second one feels a little bit better, and then the third difficulty is where it starts you to just know your class, have some feats, have some items. Like you have to know what you are doing, but it's still not overwhelming. I always felt with Vermintide that the rise of the difficulty through the levels was sometimes a bit too steep. And the moment you switched from difficulty range 2 to 3 in Vermintide, it felt like it was a completely different game. They are making it a little bit easier on you this time, right? And then 4 and 5 is where the end game is at, and where you really have to know your class, where you have to be max level, and then you are trying to get the good equipment. Leveling is pretty fast. It still takes you some rounds to get your level up, but it's again relatively fast, so leveling up another character will not take that long. The weapons, there's a great variety here for all the classes. Some of the classes are sharing some weapon types, which I think is alright, but then you also have some exclusive weapon types only your class slash subclass can actually utilize, so you have to look out for that if you're deciding which class you want to play. Speaking about classes, so the classes are all right. All the 4 classes they are offering you feel all right. The Ogryn, the Psyker, the Veteran, and the Zealot. And every class has a subclass. The problem is, and this is where it starts, is, well, you only have one subclass. I remember that when Vermintide 2 came out, every class had 3 subclasses at the release. And it feels like, whoa, okay, I get it. I get where they're coming from. Because even though Vermintide 2 had 3 subclasses for every class, you could feel that the balance was not there. Some subclasses were far too powerful, where others were far too weak, and they are still far too weak or far too powerful sometimes. There are some subclasses in Vermintide 2 right now where people are telling you, hey, if you want to play this game serious, please do not play that subclass, right? So to not have this power vacuum again in Darktide, I think what they slowly will do is gradually adding more classes. Keep in mind that this game is a live service game, so there will be more content coming for free. And then, of course, they will have the item shop where you can buy some cosmetics and all that for real money, of course. But they will treat this more like a live service game. And I know what you are thinking right now. Oh, no. Live service game? Oh, no. Is this one of those games where there is no content at the beginning and then they're slowly patching it in? No, not at all. That's the amazing part. Like, even with some of the things I'm not super happy about, like as I said, with the subclasses, the amount which is available and all that, it is a full package. The game is completely there, and it's a $40 game, right? Or €40 game. And it feels like this is the full package. But you also can feel by playing it that there's more to come, and it's more exciting than this usual feeling of, man, this should have been here right from the beginning, and now they're just patching the things in which should have been there from release. That is not the case here. Here it really feels like, whoa, okay, there's 12 maps at the release. You have your subclasses, you have 60 weapons, I think, and different weapon classes. There's tons of stuff to do. Like, it really feels like there is a huge amount of the game available to you, but you also can feel that there is more coming. And that's the exciting part about it, because you know more content is on the way, right? So it's not a bad thing. It's not a Sea of Thieves, right? Where there was basically no game at the beginning and then they slowly had to add it. Or some of the other recent games we had where you just felt that, yeah, okay, half of the game is still missing, and now they are slowly patching it in and selling it to you as new content, which it clearly isn't, right? It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way, and I'm really appreciative about that. So they did a fantastic job. Is it Vermintide? Yeah. It's Vermintide 3 in the Warhammer 40k universe. It takes a lot of the lessons of Vermintide, though, and creates something new, something exciting, and something different. And it's not just the graphics. I mean, Fat Shark is definitely a little bit smarter in that regard, and they are not doing what, let's say, Creative Assembly sometimes does with the Total Warhammer or Total War series, where they are adding features which are amazing, and then the next game is coming out and they removed some of the already amazingly working features and replaced them with some less exciting features, and it's just like, why did you not just left those things in? People are really excited about, and they liked, right? And that is what Fat Shark is doing with Darktide. Like, a lot of the features people loved in Vermintide and Vermintide 2 are in here again, and they expanded on them. They added more. They even updated some of the features, like, as I said, the media system. I never believed that the melee system could get an even better update and then could get in an even better state than it already was in Vermintide 2. But they did it. Or, well, the range system. It clearly needed an update coming from Vermintide 2, and they did it. They delivered on that, right? So, would I recommend Warhammer 40k Darktide on release? Yes. If you enjoyed all the things I've just said, then yes, this game is totally hitting it home. Like, it is one of kind of a surprise release to me, because they just managed to keep the spirit of Vermintide 2 alive, but add so much more to it. And I know there's more to come after the release. So again, yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Do I recommend it for Game Pass right now? No, because, well, you can only play together with Game Pass people, and the amount of people who will have the game on Steam instead will be so much bigger. So yeah, wait for the crossplay. But the moment crossplay is available, I definitely recommend also to check it out on Game Pass. And this game has a very bright future ahead of it, and I'm really happy about this game. It hits the lore of Warhammer 40k. It does create the world beautifully. The sound is amazing. The gameplay feels amazing. And even the random system. I had only 1 or 2 bad random experiences with other players, where I really thought after half of the level, oh, please, benevolent emperor, just shoot me. Just shoot me right here. And there was only 2 games. Like, everything else was okay, or sometimes even amazing. And I have already played hundreds of games. So can't really complain there either, right? And so, yeah, if you enjoyed everything I just said, I highly recommend this game. If you love first-person horde shooters and you kind of enjoyed Vermintide, or maybe you didn't enjoy Vermintide and this game might win you over, I definitely recommend it. Yeah, for sure. Quick note, I want to add this, even though it doesn't matter too much. The preview version, or the version which I have been playing here, was provided by Fat Shark, but I will be honest, I would have bought this anyway, so it doesn't really matter for me. And I've played the betas before that, and it's just, yeah, like, doesn't change any of what I have seen from the gameplay and what I have seen from the game. So it's a good game. It's really, really good. Now, if they are fixing all the last issues with the crashes and with the performance for some people, then it would be even better. As I said, I didn't have any problems. So, but I'm also not ignoring them. But enough of me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video could clear up some of your thoughts on if you want to buy this game or not. If you still have any questions, let me know in the comments. But if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like. And if you're new to the channel, I know this is a lot to ask, but if you would be so kind to subscribe to the channel, it would also help me a great deal. There are more Warhammer 40k videos and Darktide videos coming in the foreseeable future. We already have quite a bit of Darktide content here on the channel, and I'm also streaming the game right now from Monday to Friday, starting at 8 AM East Coast time. That is 1 PM UK time and 2 PM Central European time here on YouTube. With that said, again, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. And don't forget, the Emperor protects. Bye-bye.